Uh-oh.
What shall we say?
Yes, we got, Jan is plugged in, so.
Good.
Who are we missing? Tanya?
Tanya and Paul,
We need Paul.
Hello,
Charlie Beta.
Hello, is that you, Jana?
Paul.
me. However, I'm only here for a half hour.
Okay,
Well, that's too bad.
yeah.
Yeah, I have to pick up my granddaughter. Sorry.
It's okay, well, you don't mind if we assign you some things while you're not here, right?
Please.
Good. That was good. Let's see. We really need Paul.
Yeah.
In minutes, so.
Well, it's just at this moment, 2:30, so.
Yeah.
Do you want me to text him or? Harass him or?
Is he local or is he down in Cambridge?
I don't know. He was here,
Oh, he was.
no, he was here last week. I had a meeting with him. I don't remember when it was.
Huh.
He might. When did I meet with him?
We can procrastinate.
Yeah. So I'm here to say, get out the vote Friday, town meeting on Saturday.
Yeah, we voted today, both Maddie and I voted today, we're leaving Friday, and we go with a group every March.
Oh,
And we can't go to the town meeting, I mean, give me a break, the modern era.
Zoom town meeting.
Or maybe just a ballot where you can vote remotely.
That's,
That's
we
good.
did, well, during, for at least 3, maybe 4 years during COVID.
yeah.
There was no town meeting and
Everything.
everything was done just strictly by ballot. But there's a strong feeling, at least among some folks in town, that, you know, it's a New England tradition and it's a town tradition and we should just have it, we should have town meeting and people should, know if they wanna go.
And there are more than 3,000 voters in Belgrade,
I'm saying 3,600.
registered voters. What's that?
That's a population.
Population, I don't think that they're,
Okay, then
no, it's
I-
in the twos.
Yeah.
It's like 24, last I heard, which was a few years ago, it was 2,400. But I don't know what it is.
So let's say it's 2,400. Last year, there were 85 people at the.
Yeah, that's
town meeting.
Yeah.
But that's what
So-
it's, yeah, it is, that's true, but
Pretty
it's,
discouraging.
you vote with your feet, it's your choice. I mean, granted, there's some people who can't come because they
Some
just
people can't come.
can't come for one reason or another. Yeah,
Anyway, well, there's Paul.
Yes,
there it is, okay.
Hello,
Hello, Paul's there and.
Lenny, you survived your procedure.
Well, the answer is yes, but barely. It was, I actually had to, go back. I flunked the first time and I had to do the prep another night and go back a second time.
Oh, my God. Oh,
Yeah, it was not fun, but
oh,
oh, that's tough.
yeah.
Wow.
How's your back, Paul?
hurts.
He's looking-
Thank you.
You didn't fix it?
I don't think they fixed it, but it hurts. We'll see.
Oh,
What-
wow.
I'm gonna give it a year.
What happened to your back?
Surgery.
Oh, you had surgery?
I had a fusion.
Wow.
Yeah, so-
Can I take this conversation back to the discussion you were having before? When is this meeting? And,
Friday.
oh, so, and it's only for people who can walk and physically be at that meeting, is that right?
Well, there's voting on Friday, which you can do absentee,
Right.
Oh,
and then the meeting is Saturday.
But so there are a bunch of articles, including the ordinance change. On the secret ballot, which Maddie and I both voted today on that. But we can't make it Saturday. We have a long scheduled trip and it's with a group that goes typically every March, you know, so. Or we're in Florida, which, so neither of those are conducive. So yeah, you're right. And that's the other, something like 20 articles on the ballot, including budget and, you know, all sorts of stuff, important stuff. So you have to be in Belgrade physically and able to get to the Center for All Seasons. And I don't know, I mentioned to Maddie, let's start a petition and change it. So anyway, there you go.
I'm in favor.
You have to,
We'll
especially.
send the
with-
petition your way.
All right.
Okay, call it, we've got a quorum here, so I'm gonna call the meeting to order.
Great.
Present, Pat Donahue, Kimberly Dallas, and you're right, Chris Bradley, Taylor Townsend, and Paul Feinberg, and we have his note taker also. Uh,
Hi, I'm an AI assistant. Awesome.
We're pleased to welcome the new technology.
Right.
Old business is consideration of the February 14th minutes. 2025. Has everybody had a chance to look at them? Any comments?
Was that the date, February?
February
14th?
11th was the
February-
last meeting. One with-
Yeah, February 11th.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I have to correct Jenna's last name, for first name. Janice. which I will
Thank
do.
you.
Yeah. Another good job, Paul. Thank you.
Yes, thank you
Thank
so
you,
much,
Paul.
Paul.
Thank you very much. Hopefully the new note
Not doing a
taker-
bad job.
Yeah. So, do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve the minutes.
Second,
As amended with Jana's name.
Correct name?
Yeah.
spelling,
Yes.
I'd second that.
yeah. All those in favor?
I,
I abstained, I was not at the meeting.
Okay.
Me
we're-
too. I was not at the meetings.
but you were
Okay.
online, you were at the
Oh,
meeting.
wait, yes, I was there. Sorry,
You were
I'm
the-
confused, and so I vote for it.
Yes,
You don't have to be at the meeting to vote for the minutes, I don't think.
Well, how would you?
I would.
No, I think in order, you have to approve the minutes, you have to have been at the meeting. 'Cause
So you know
Yeah.
they were.
You have, because you're
That'd be
basically
worse.
saying they're
Yeah.
correct.
yeah,
If you weren't there, yeah.
I don't know.
yeah.
Okay. Where's that written? Roberts?
Robert's rules,
Well,
I don't think
don't
so.
know if it's written down anywhere, but any committee I've ever been involved in that approved minutes.
Yeah.
Anytime, excuse me, someone had not been at the
They
meeting,
couldn't.
person.
they always abstained from the minutes for that reason.
Great.
Approving the minutes for that reason, but
Well,
it's written down anywhere.
the professor speaks.
yeah,
Really?
Just experience.
It's my experience as well.
From too many meetings.
yeah. Chris, you wanna?
Oh,
kick off
sure.
here?
Sure. So, I sent out, to everybody February 22nd, my thoughts. And, I got crickets, after that, so, no comments, which, I don't know, I guess it depends what frame of mind you are as to how to interpret that, but, maybe we wanna talk about, what to focus on next. I think we should have, a limited number of changes that we think are the highest priority and push them forward at the soonest we can to get them onto the ballot. When would be June?
June, there's another, because we have to vote for the school budget, I believe, in June, so that's another voting
The
day.
opportunity to do it in June.
Yeah.
Are we recording this?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah,
Yes.
you're
Okay.
note taking, recording it, I believe.
Okay,
yeah, we started the recording before you attended.
Before you go.
Not that we didn't start the meeting, but just the recording. So, any, comments on the concept of focusing in on one or two maybe, or whatever? Does anybody have any thoughts on that?
I think if maybe we, like, there's a bunch here that are related to septic. I think if we kind of put that as one group, and I think if we go in front of the planning board and we have like 5 or 6, we know they're gonna knock down a couple. So I don't think we want to go with just one or two. I think maybe if we go with a slightly larger number, we might get one or two.
But as to the septic, I thought, Kimberly, the sense of the last meeting I thought we had was to wait and not do anything, to try and just basically adopt the level ordinance.
Yes, I was just using that as an example, but yes, I do think
Yeah.
we should wait to see what other towns get approved, and then we could kind of just jump on that. But I guess my point was, I think we should go with more than just one or two to present to the select board, I'm sorry, the planning board. Because we're gonna have to negotiate. Just from a strategic point, but that's just my thoughts.
Is there,
Other thoughts?
Well, one thought that I have is that planning board and select board aside, we're gonna have to go to the voters.
Yeah.
And we had, I believe it was 13 that we initially we presented, and we wanted to have go forward. Am I correct?
Yeah, it's
Yes.
around 13, I
Was
think.
there, whatever. And ultimately, we're looking at, if not 13, say 9 or 10 that we're gonna really ultimately like to have approved. And I don't think the voters are gonna be terribly accepting of our coming back at them like 5 or 6 times in a row, at 5 or 6 elections in a row with approve the ordinance change. They're gonna say, what the hell's going on here? You know what I mean? I mean, I think we have a sort of limited number of times to go back at them in a row. I mean, we've had a hiatus of several years. Because,
That's a good point.
so. I mean, I think we need to discuss that with the planning board and say, look, you know, we can't just, you can't just you guys can't just approve 1 or 2 of these. In 1 or 2, you know, in a few months, because we can't just keep doing this. Voters are not gonna swallow doing this time after time. And we might be able to get by with that one more time, but
probably 2 shots,
yeah, and then they're gonna say, what the hell is going on here? We know. That's my opinion.
If you look at the ballot this time, there are multiple changes, not just to the shoreline zone.
Oh, right, other stuff as well. that
There are
they're
other
looking at.
things.
Yes,
There, and we were, I would point out that we were told by Sarah Langette that that the planning board and potentially the board would not appreciate a whole bunch of change. They would want a limited amount of change. So that's that's the other side of the coin, is that, yeah, you go in and say, we want to change all these things like that. And then you start getting people with their hackles up. And then they say, well, no, I don't like that one. And I don't like any of this. I mean, that's kind of what we saw with the last planning board meeting, was that just sort of like, I don't like this. I don't like change. I don't like interference. I don't like government.
right, well, that's, yeah, that's Craig in particular doesn't want anything that even vaguely slows him down or anybody down who wants to build anything.
Yes, yeah. So,
I mean, I think that, what do I think? I think that we still need more time. Every time we meet, we learn more. And I sort of I like the idea that Lenny had of one package. But I think we've got to go, think this through politically, whether, we have no choice except to go to the planning board first. Could we have a public meeting with the town first? You know, trying like an educational meeting like we had at the Center for All Seasons, Pat, a year or so ago.
Yeah, for the comprehensive plan. Who sets that up? Is that the select board or is that Mary Vogel? Like, who makes that happen?
it was
I don't
the
remember.
comprehensive plan committee set it up. You know, with Anthony was leading it then.
Okay,
as
But we had another
as
one.
Town manager.
we had another one
So
this fall that discussed, that was comprehensive
Yeah.
too.
I'd like to chime in. I'm gonna have to leave soon. I agree with Paul and Lenny. I think we need to wait. We need to have a full package. But I also think that what we're missing is the educational piece. And I think that we should invite the press in to give them a real comprehensive approach to what we're doing and explain the reason for these changes. And then also have a public meeting that's dynamic and be very clear about what our goals are, and present to the town in a very comprehensive way. I think it will be better received in the long run. I know we all want this to happen and how important it is to have it to happen, but I think we're just going to lose if we don't think a little bit more holistically about it.
Well, there's also, we also could go back to the planet, not the planet, I'm sorry, we also could go back to the select board.
Yeah.
With what we have left and say, you folks gave us a charge. Here's what you told us to do. And here's basically what we have, that we've come up with that hasn't been put forward yet. And, this is what we'd like to do. What is it that's in here that you like and don't like? Even before we take it back to the planning board.
I like that idea. And when we were at the select board meeting, I think you asked, or one of you asked, would you like to see the packet that we gave the planning board? And they were all like, well, yeah.
And they said yes, and I sent them the packet.
Yeah, I know
So
that you did
they should have everything,
Mhm.
if, and which of them read it, I don't know, I can't tell you, but I hear you. Let's do more, investigation, let's communicate to the town. In the last month, I'm the only one that did anything on this, to be frank. I don't even know if everybody read this thing. I didn't get any comments, so. What do
I
you
gave
want?
some. gave
I
some
read it.
Go
Well,
ahead.
that's good.
Yeah, I read it too.
I read it. I like the changes. I didn't respond because you guys are constantly rewriting this, and I almost can't differentiate from one to the other, and plus I'm far away. So I apologize. I did think about responding, but with all that's going on here, including the fact that I had pneumonia for a while, I did not respond. But I always read everything. I want you to know that.
I'm not pointing to you, Jana, but who's going to spend more time? I mean, we've had a month, we've done just a flurry of activity in the last week.
3 days.
Who's going to think more about this, research more about this? I mean, I've thought about it, I've gone through it, I've outlined in an email, 1.5 pages of my thoughts. And, so I guess I'm looking for leadership from somebody else here, I guess, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I personally don't want to spend a whole lot more time going through the same thing. I think we've got a good plan as far as waiting on septic until level happens. I'm not sure that I agree that the voters of the town of Belgrade are so immersed in the voting that they're going to be turned off by another change to the shoreline zoning ordinance. I mean, it's just, the ballot only says, it's a single sentence, just, do you approve the change to the shoreline zoning? It doesn't say what it is, and
That's true.
if we get 85 people going to the town meeting, then, what kind of,
No, it's on,
Yeah.
that is on the ballot for Friday. It's
right,
not-
no,
Yeah, that's not a Saturday thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm
but there
confused.
are a couple hundred people vote for that,
right.
give or take.
Wait, I'm confused. Are we asking voters to make a change without knowing what the change is?
Well, Nick, what it's.
Yes, the
basically,
answer
yeah.
is yes, but
The answer is yes, but it's all available. You can come into the town office and say, I'd like to see the changes to the shoreline zoning ordinance. It's Article 9 in the ballot that is the secret ballot that will be voted on in person on Friday, or you can vote right now in town hall here,
Yeah.
or you can do it remotely,
Yeah, you can look on the website and you can find the information's available as
It's
to what it
available.
is.
Search it.
but you have to dig for
You
it.
have to dig for it, but it's, but when it comes time to actually vote, the information is not right in front of you. That is correct.
Right, yeah, so that's the way it works, Jana, and.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah, I know,
So that means
Wait.
that the select board is making the decision and they just put, is that correct? The planning board presents to the select board and the select board then just puts this short-term, I mean, this very short one sentence that doesn't describe what's going on. So
That is-
the voters
That's
are
correct.
asked to rely on the select board's input.
Oh, and the select board says that they're in favor or not, and based on that, voters vote, yay or nay?
Yeah, or it says
So-
right in the article, because the select board recommendations are part of the article, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, it says, 5, in favor, 0 opposed when it comes to Article 9. And some of the other ones will have the budget committee vote. I think it's a budget committee.
Budget committee votes,
yeah.
And they'll have, and this time it was 3 to 0 with 3 absents. I'm like, all these articles, and so somebody didn't
Somebody
Show up
didn't show up for that meeting.
that meeting, I guess, so.
But I think it's kind of like elections all the time. I mean, people who want to be involved go digging and get the information. I mean,
Yeah.
That's,
Yeah, let's just,
some people are gonna care and some people don't, unfortunately.
Very often you see a synopsis of something that you're
Mm.
voting for, you know, and
This
it's
is-
on the ballot and
read
you can read it and in this case, in the secret ballot, there are a bunch of explanations, but ours is just changed to the shoreline zoning ordinance. Bang, that's it, you know, the other ones is a
I
little
just-
more.
I just want to back up a little on this to express my opinion. It seems to me that of everything that we've dealt with, that the recovery buffer is the largest impact that we could make as a committee. And we have to really come up with a strategy to try and maximize the ability to get that passed. And it would seem to me that the impact of that phosphorus in the lake is the greatest upon the non-voters, the seasonal property owners. So we need to reach them in the summer and have an education, because it's really backwards. You've got such a small amount of voters deciding the fate of the lake that impacts the highest tax-paying group, which are the non-seasonal, the seasonal property owners who don't vote in town. So, and it seems also to me that we need to do some more work in the science of it. I mean, we sit with Dave Roque and we learn about looking more carefully at the soils, and maybe we should use environmental mulch in certain situations. And then I made some comments, I guess it didn't get to you, Chris, about the amount of phosphorus in the lake and there's some science about the runoff of phosphorus that Auburn in their ordinance uses. And I wrote Charlie back and asked him if we have this formula that we can apply to Great Pond. So
I did see your comment to Charlie about that, and you did make comments earlier to me, maybe last week. It must have been last week in an email, which I did read that, though that was the only comments I got. It wasn't, basically, it didn't. I don't have it in front of me, so I can't remember
But
what
I
it was.
guess the area of concentration is, it starts to include the roads and the runoff from the roads that Charlie is very involved with. So you're talking about getting more expertise and taking the burden off of you. I personally would put more time into it. Charlie is putting time into it on his own. I mean, we have a little subcommittee that goes to work on this on a regular basis, because there is information and we need to get the facts about, like, I don't know how many property owners, what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say really about the money in the town. We've got to go to the community and say, you know, we have 450 lake properties here, and this is the amount of the taxes, which is like 60% of the revenue of the town comes from shoreland zone properties. And we've got to make the case that what we want is important. And the we is seasonal non-voters. So please listen to us and how it affects the community. I mean, just to go and, I mean, what scares me is you go to the planning board and in 5 minutes of discussion, we're down the toilet. We can't allow that to happen.
Oh, we may get shot down regardless of what
Yeah.
preparation we do, we may get shot down the first time, and I would say we're not going away. I mean, this problem is not going away. I guess you said a bunch of things, I don't think we need to. I personally don't think we need to spend a whole lot of time educating the seasonal, non-resident, non-voting public. I think I see them at the BLA meetings. There's always discussion of water quality and the causes of deterioration in water quality. So, and they are not the voters that we're concerned about. I think I believe it's around 65% of the tax base of the town of Belgrade is the shoreline zone, property taxes. That needs to be,
Chris, interrupt. That the BLA meeting, for example, is well attended.
yeah. And
The select board in the summer has a meeting for seasonal residents. I was there last year. I think there were 5 of us.
Paul and I were
That
there,
was it?
yes.
But
That was it.
Why do you want to get the seasonal, non-resident, non-voting people involved?
Because they're the political force. They're paying for the money. They're paying the revenue that runs the town, number one. Number two, they have the most to lose.
But they're not the voters. There's somebody that's gonna
Got to
be.
influence the voters. They got to show this important somehow.
The person that living 3 miles away from the lake that's concerned, that was at the comprehensive meeting, that the guy that said, how can I keep my taxes down? That was his question at the comprehensive, at the public comments for comprehensive meeting. And I took the opportunity to say, you keep your taxes down by making sure the water quality of the lakes is as good as it can be. Because if you lose that, you lose your tax base and your taxes, sir, will go up. And that didn't resonate with him because he wanted his taxes to go down, in fact, not go up. And, you know, it's inflation and the school and, you know, workers' comp, and there's a whole lot of things wrapped up into this discussion. But I think we need to appeal to the voters. And I agree that, but I mean, I wrote it in my email on February 22nd. In my opinion, the number 11 change requiring the establishment of recovery buffer would have the most impact on water quality. The difference between pristine lakes with poor water quality is the amount of shoreline development that has occurred. Development causes runoff and buffers protect the lake from runoff. I think we should move this change forward. What do you all think? And nobody commented on that. I don't think your email was a direct comment on that. And I'm thinking that is something we have researched thoroughly and we have a decision for. And I think Dave Rope's comment on the stuff you put down, I think that was associated with something else. I think we've got enough to move forward on this. And I don't, and then we can take our time if we don't want to, if we think that going back to the public in September or whenever the next opportunity is too soon, then
Okay, what on the recovery buffer?
Yeah.
What about, and there's the larger issue, which we've heard different things about. As for whether or not the town has the right, with the recovery buffer, we're talking about requiring a property owner to install a buffer for what, what, the question is, do we have the right to do that? That's a question we never really come to a conclusion on. I mean, we got input from an MMA attorney back a year and a half ago, which said we don't have that right, that constitutionally we cannot,
That was the unconditional right to do that, to just say, bang, you have to put in a buffer.
okay,
I believe we've had batted this around and the attorney that I talked to,
yeah,
that I contracted with, said that, if it's a conditional, you need a permit, we need you to do this.
okay, so this is going to be strictly based on
Yeah.
if the person gets a permit for any reason.
Right.
Similar to what the Auburn.
Similar to that, that's what you're
You know,
talking
you have to have
about.
a trigger event, which is building a structure or something and.
Yeah,
right
and
there, then you-
I'm not positive that this is all tied up with a bow and ready to go. I mean, it still has to
Okay.
go by
I
the
see.
town
Oh, okay.
attorney and everybody else, and
Okay.
I would suggest that if we wanted to move that forward, that I would talk to the guy, I forget his name, but I sent you the information on it.
Okay,
And have him look at it and craft the language for it.
okay,
Yeah.
So
And I
there's
think, go ahead.
there's two things here. One is the language, and I think we've got that down. The other is there's some of us that want to have more research. But regardless of this, whether they're the whichever voters, the non-voters or the voters, people still don't understand exactly what this is. And I think what we need the time for is to educate. Now, we tried to educate the planning board, but they didn't even want to hear what we had to say. So I really think that's where we need to focus. We need to understand who we're appealing to and how do we get them to understand what we're doing so that they will vote in favor of it. That's where I think we've got good stuff. We've got great language. We've narrowed it down. I mean, I feel like the buffer is really important. It doesn't have what I really want in it, but I'm willing to go with this. If we could get it implemented, I'm worried that it won't get implemented at all. And so that's why I think we should take time to think about how we're going to present this and to whom are we presenting this. I mean, there's the planning board. I think we need to go back to the select committee because I think we have their ear and maybe discuss with them and brainstorm with them how to move forward. But that's all. I don't understand the local stuff because I'm new to that. And I have to go pick up my granddaughter. I'm sorry. I have to say goodbye. Thank you for letting me.
Jana, before you go, I would suggest that we focus in on what we want to put forward, and then we, and start to move on that, but also that doesn't go before the voters before we have some education. So, I think the planning board knows what the hell the story is. We don't need to educate the planning board. That's my sense from talking to them. And I believe the select board is also probably in the same situation. But I would say we focus in on stuff and then we start to do some education. I sent around that photo of the sign in front of the post office in Belgrade Lakes.
Yeah, that was great. Yeah.
So that's an example. I would say direct mail. I was a junk mailer in my previous life, so I know what direct mail is all about. I would say some direct mail and we can figure out how to pay for that. And anyway, so absolutely education, but we first need to say, what are we ready to go with? Can we move anything forward or do we need to drop back and do more research?
Okay, I'm gonna leave that to you guys or I'll be late. Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye.
Jane.
Bye-bye.
John Blaze, in his article, in his email to us, January 17th, offered to meet with our committee to talk about specifically the recovery buffer.
Who did, Pat?
This
John
is John Blaze from
I
Auburn.
think he'd be great, because some of this stuff is, in Auburn, they had this whole criteria of when the recovery, that when a buffer is required.
Yeah,
Different criteria. I mean, I'm concerned that if this could get absurd, you know, if you say any permit, you know, if somebody goes and applies for, if we ever get this tree permit passed, somebody wants to cut down a tree, so they apply for a tree permit, now they have to be in compliance with the recovery buffer. It's gonna get a
yep.
little crazy.
They're, what they have is any new building or structure more than 200 square feet of,
Right.
Ground floor level, that's the trigger, so once.
So
So
it's
that-
a building.
There's
permit
four
only.
different triggers there, 4 or
yes.
5, as I recall.
So there's more than that,
Much
Then it goes into
comprehensive.
what the buffer is and.
but, there's more, Paul, you're saying there's more than just a building permit, for a trigger?
There are, in the Auburn ordinance, there is.
Does anybody have that in front of them
Yes,
to read a list of what those are? If it's.
I just have
I can find it. We just. I can-
applicability, any new building or structure with more than 200 square feet of ground floor area,
So that's
the only,
what's
that's the
there.
only thing that triggers it.
that's it.
No, there's more than that.
The city.
That is pretty
The
limited.
following basic LID standard applies to new development of individual residential lots or small developments in all zoning districts within Lake Auburn and Taylor Pond watersheds that fall below the threshold for phosphorus control plan by a professional engineer.
I
Or maybe
guess,
having it as just at the building permit, 200 square feet, whatever it was, maybe that's a starting point.
That's where
Because
they
you're right, I
start.
don't think
Right.
taking down a tree, you have to put it
Right.
covered
well,
up.
currently you don't need a permit to take down a.
Oh, I know, but
So,
Hans is hoping that will.
So maybe we need to figure that out, what permits,
What we would think.
what permits would be applicable. I mean, I'd be more inclined to say any permit, that you get, for your property, to change your property, and if you wanna change your property, you wanna put on a deck, wanna put on a cabin, something like that, maybe it's a driveway, maybe, I don't know, what it is, but if you wanna change your property, you need to comply with the community's desire to have a buffer, and you need to change that. If you wanna change this, you gotta change that. So, and I'm sure it's gonna be a heck of an uphill battle to get this done.
Yeah.
I would expect it would be. But I think it's, yeah, I think that's the one that seems to make the most sense. The 5 gallon, you know, that seems, you know, Hans is the number 13,
Yeah. 5-gallon buckets
the
for
5 gallon
planting,
bucket. Is it number 13,
number 12.
it's
Well,
number 12, yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, that isn't a big, that
That
isn't,
seems like it's pretty easy. The rest of these seem to me to start to, maybe they'll, I guess I'm reticent to put forward things that I think are gonna have more things that are gonna have pushback. If, I don't think we get pushback on the 5 gallon container, change, because Hans is behind that. And I think if we're gonna go to the mattresses on this, if we're gonna fight, I'd do it on the buffer, but that's.
I think it's
I agree.
the biggest bang for the buck long term, and
Seems like it.
it's gonna need a team effort, I think, with science behind it. What's the phosphorus?
Mhm.
You know, really get John Blaze in here and others. Charlie, can you hear us?
You're
You're
still
still
muted.
muted,
Oh, there you go.
Charlie.
Charlie, we're talking about John Blaze, the Auburn,
There you are.
techniques they're using.
I'm with you.
Are you familiar,
What's the question? Sorry.
how familiar, are you familiar with what the Auburn plan is? We have it in front of us and. the
Yes,
information.
I've read it too.
How do you think we should, is it kind of similar to what we want to do? And what do you think a next step would be, to bring John in and go over how they did it? And we should be prepared to, except before that, to tell John what we think we're gonna need to have as far as the applicability of it. And That's good.
He's very willing to participate in discussions. He, I think
Yeah.
both enjoys it and sees it as, part of his mission. He also, I think is, he takes people fishing. So the Belgrades is his area and he wants to keep it, clean as well. But he'd be available, I expect. Are you thinking about him coming to a next, meeting?
Yes.
Or
Sometime in the
one of the next, okay. No, I can ask him and then make sure that you're part of the email exchange, Pat, so that, you've got his, contact information as well.
Is there anybody else in Auburn? Is there a lawyer that they work with that might be helpful?
They did get
Yeah.
outside counsel as part of their process, yeah, so it's all been reviewed, to my knowledge. So quick answers, yes, I'm not sure if it was inside counsel or outside, but, they definitely went through that step.
Charlie, I think according to what John said was their counsel is Sally Daggett. And she's also, I think, Rome's counsel.
Well, that's
Oh,
good.
yeah.
Then she's knowledgeable about the issues and that'd be great.
Maybe we should talk to her as well.
Well, if it's already been through legal, then maybe we should assume that what we're presented with is good, then we just have to deal with Belgrade's town
Correct.
attorney.
I guess I really would question why we want to talk to John Blaze again. I like John, I think we've got some good information from him, but he's got a whole department in the city of Auburn
Yeah.
that is all over this. So he's got the resources and the budget so his stuff is very complex. And I thought we had gone through in our document and come up with a pretty good explanation and what we wanted to do. If there's a question about the triggers, I mean, we're gonna have to go back and forth with the planning board on that. We can ask Hans about the triggers. But what are we looking to do to change what we've already done? What are we looking for John Blaze or anybody else to basically start over on change number 11?
Yeah, I agree with Chris. We put a lot of time and effort into this already.
Thought we were ready to go.
Well, we
I
really presented this to the select, or to the planning board, because,
I felt like we were,
yeah,
you
we
know,
were there.
we had these things sort of brought together and we don't. So we haven't done really anything, we haven't achieved anything in the last month. Do we wanna wait another month and then have another meeting and talk about? I hate to be cynical about it, but I don't see us moving forward on this, that's all.
Can I ask one question? What is change? I don't have it in front of me. It's not very long, is it? Could you just read it to me?
About a paragraph.
No, it's a page, I mean, you get.
Oh, it's a long page? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Change
in our
comments.
document, change number 11, section 15S, 14, when a property is a lawn running down to a water body without a buffer and the property owner is seeking a permit from it. I mean, it goes on and we have
Okay.
comments talking
I'll
about
look
that.
at
and events, and we reference John Blaze and the city of Auburn, and then we have the legal language.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I mean, I think it's well crafted. We went back and forth on and got everybody to agree to 30 feet or 30%. So that was a back and forth
Yeah.
change. And then, we talked about, when sapling trees may be cut to ground level and over 3 feet in height and less than 2 inches in diameter, 4.5 feet above ground level. I mean, we talked about this because it's a whole different concept, to have a recovery buffer. You're not able to cut stuff until it gets up above 3 feet. And then you can cut it until it gets to be a tree. And then you're not allowed to cut it. And I haven't seen that before. That's sort of our concept. And I think it works well for, it maintain your view. if you think of the lawn going right down to the lake, now you have to stop. Cutting the last 30 feet of it and, until it gets 3 feet tall, and then you can cut stuff or you can let a sapling grow up. And I just feel like that's a really helpful change and we can explain it, it's simple. I mean, getting into the phosphorus and everything like that, I think that Charlie's sort of thinking about that for roads, and I agree. We should get into that, but not right now, I don't think.
What about the soils that Dave brought up? And how to deal with what you do in the buffer to recover it?
Yeah, let's go back to your, notes, to what he was talking about with that, because,
Yeah, I think he essentially was saying that if they're poor soils where you're not gonna get a vegetation growing, that you need to enrich it by putting in erosion control material of at least 4 inches, and over time it'll decompose and then you'll be able to have more soil and more growth.
I'm just looking, trying to find. it.
Yeah, that's at the end of the first page of the notes. Bradley went back to change 10 on the concept of recovery buffer. Roque advised that we need to take into account the type of soils. If the soils are poor, sandy soils, we should require putting down erosion control mulch, which over time will decompose and add nutrients and growth. There's a standard of soils that DEP uses for sites to reference, and those that do not have well-established vigorous vegetation, we should require the erosion control mulch. I get it, and I just feel like that's another step of complexity. And we had, Lynn Geiger had said that, the problem with that was, or with erosion control mulch, was that she regularly sees people want to mulch everything, so she was thinking there might be a downside to that. I hear you, but I'd rather have somebody stop, and we're talking about a lawn that is growing down and right down to the water. I'd rather have them stop mowing the lawn and see what happens, and not get this so complex that people on the planning board and maybe the select board are gonna say, wait a minute, now you're gonna have to do a soil test, and if it's, meets this standard, then it's gotta go and have mulch and stuff. I get it, but I kind of feel like that's trying to be perfect with this, and I'd rather us get something moving here.
I guess from my opinion is, I'm 110% supportive of what you're talking about. And I'm supportive of your effort, and I don't want to be resistant to this. But I guess we're just trying to maximize the likelihood of success here. And because it'd be a shame if we got shut down. So I don't know. It's sort of like a strategic decision as to how to move forward. From my background doing development work, if I'm trying to permit something, it's like running a political campaign. You want to know what the result is before you go into the hearing. And it's a little.
I don't disagree with that. No, I mean, I would say if we had Dave, John Blaze, maybe Dave Roque too, but try to get them in front of the planning board with us, maybe. But God, now you've got a lot of moving parts there. You got a planning board schedule, you got, John Blaze's schedule. We know that Dave Roque's schedule is hugely problematic. I don't know.
Yeah, change 11 is, I think, well written and comprehensive.
Feel like it
It's
is.
just, how do we move it? Do we need more, as Paul said, more science behind it?
And what is that? Is that for our edification, or is that for the planning board's edification? And then you have to make them read it. Which
Doesn't
that's
happen.
another, it's not gonna happen, I don't think. I mean, I think we've got a pretty simple concept here. Stop.
How do we
mowing
test the waters without getting shut down? I mean, is there a way we just talked about whether to go to the select board first with this. I mean, when we're talking about you know, dealing with the position.
When I mentioned before the select board, yeah, I mentioned, that, have you seen our document? Would you like to get a copy of it? Right after that, Sarah Langette got up and said, basically, this is our turf. And, you know, so, I don't think we want to go to the select board before we go to the planning board. I think we would really tick some people off and, so.
We could
I mean,
bring
I'm
this-
just thinking about, because I either was at the hearing or watched the video of the issue of preventing foundations within 25 feet of the shoreland zone, of the shore, which got defeated. And it's sort of the same issue of we're working in the buffer, and, you know, the planning board was objecting to the idea of precluding foundations being put in there. So we have to be very careful.
Right.
But we're gonna need their okay for final approval.
It has to go to the planning board
Has to go to the
first
planning board
before it
first.
goes to the select
We
board.
better, we've got to field test it with them.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've talked to them and, you know, maybe we'll get a 3-2 decision. I don't know. I mean, like we did with the notify your budding,
Neighbors.
you know, landowners, so I don't know. But
Well, maybe we need to take a vote to determine if we all want to focus on change 11 and move that forward, or if there's a different.
And with change 11, that's, now we're talking about, of course, the thing where if you get a permit from the town.
Yeah.
What about the situation where the property changes hands? Was that determined that we can't require it under those circumstances because that's taking value away from the,
I think that's,
Property.
I think that's exactly what you can't do, yeah. Because they're not, here, we're able, the differentiation is they want the town to let them do something, to change their property. And we want them to help us at the same, in, you know, quid pro quo,
For that change, you get this, yeah.
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 So I think that's the logic behind it.
Is there a way we can go to the planning board and ask almost an advisory opinion in the planning board? I mean, in other words, this is a major concept. This is the most important thing, and present it that way to the planning board that we worked on as part of our mission. And we see there are a couple of areas that we want to know, get advice from the planning board as to whether they need further information. You know, one is the legal authority. Can it be done on any permit? Can it be done under, you know, sort of that aspect, the legal authority, and what's the triggering mechanism? That's an area of possible weakness. Or do they need more, you know, more regulations on whether it's 30% of 30 feet, or, you know, those kinds of areas of concern. I mean, I wonder if we can go get an advisory opinion that's not, rather than getting totally shot down, just sort of tell them where we are on this project, on this
Yeah.
point.
This is our most important project. This is our most.
Well,
let me tell you why. I can imagine why one of the planning board members is going to hate this idea of having it triggered by a permit. And that's because something that we're not considering, or at least hasn't been mentioned. And that is, so here I am, I want to build a deck, and I've talked to my builder, just maybe it's Craig Alexander, he's gonna build a deck for me, so I go to get a permit. And I'm told, okay, well, here's your permit, however, to have the permit, you're gonna have to put in a recovery buffer because you have a lawn down at the lake. And I say, what the hell? I'm not gonna change that, I like my lawn down at the lake. Well, forget the deck, I'm not gonna build a deck if I have to change my lawn. So, bye, Craig, I'm not gonna hire you after all.
Oh, no, I mean, yeah, sure,
That's
that
because
will
some people-
happen, that will
Will
happen.
happen. Some people will not get the permit if they have to put in the buffer. And doesn't take a whole lot of imagination to figure that out, and Craig will figure that out pretty quickly. And so he's going to be wildly, I mean, he will be very strongly opposed.
Well,
I'd
Lenny,
expect.
what if, for example, we do a little, try and get a little smarter about this and be proactive and say, we go to another contractor, like I got Doug Frame, who's very active in town, building next to me now. You sit down with Doug now and explain this and maybe get him on board and have him come to the hearing. You know, get somebody, some other support from contractors ahead of time.
How would you get him on board and what kind of support could he offer? I'm not sure what you mean.
Just, we sit down with someone and have a lunch and say, this is what we got in mind, and this is the political situation. I mean, this is how I've
Yeah,
always
okay.
done business, you know, I mean, how you
I
get
see,
some,
okay, this is for the good of the lake and so forth, and in the long term, it'll be
right,
better
well, for you.
Okay, fair enough, yeah, and for you, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in the grand scheme of things,
Yeah.
this is, you know, this isn't gonna impact these guys' wallets. I mean, it really isn't, you know,
I understand, yeah.
it's more of a philosophical thing, perhaps. What I would say that if we choose to move forward on this, I would have legal examination of this, writing of the language, the ordinance language done, have all that done, and maybe get an opinion letter from the attorney, and have that with this.
When we present to the planning board.
When we present it to the planning board, and just say, what, and I think Paul's got a good point. Just put it on the agenda for a meeting and say, let's discuss it. What do you think of it? And get him to, you know, and not say, hey, we want you to vote on it right now, maybe, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if that's a more effective thing or not.
I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, that's their role. They're working together. We're showing what they want. They're
Yeah.
asking for.
It's like an
Because we get-
informational meeting.
We could get totally blindsided by getting off, you know, the mark of it could all be the discussion on whether it should be triggered on the permit, not the substance of whether or not there should be a recovery zone. I mean, that's what I'm concerned about.
Right?
Well, maybe we try to get on their agenda.
Well, yeah, I would have the legal work done first. I can,
Yeah.
I can put that into, if you guys think that makes
Yeah, I
sense.
think-
I mean, this is, in my mind, the septic I find to be very important.
Yeah.
But I don't see us doing anything until we find out what the town
Yeah.
level does. I mean,
And when are they going to act on that, or?
we don't know. That's gonna be months. Okay. You know, but I feel like they're doing the heavy lifting on that, and,
Yeah.
and if we can say, okay, this has been approved by the town level. Or if it gets shot down, find out why, and then see what they come back with. I think that would be,
Right.
very, because I mean, the septic is huge, and the comments from, Michelle, was, from the town of Rome. She's, they're going with a recommendation step. That's an interesting concept too. So I don't know if everybody saw that.
It's all the material that came around by email, yeah.
Yeah, so, so it seems like they're trying to sort of break the ice, which with septic, I think that, I mean, this is huge, and they're gonna try to get the funding behind it too, so, cause that's gonna be, the stumbling block. They're gonna,
Yeah, it's cost.
everybody's gonna say, well, wait a minute, how are you gonna force somebody to pay $20,000? That's not, you can't do that.
No.
And, we're gonna say, well, it's too late, we have to do it. And then, but if you have like, and here's the funding for it, then you get rid of that huge objection right there.
Well, I like the idea of getting the attorney involved to make sure that this at least has gone through the legal process and then presenting that. I shouldn't say presenting it, getting on the planning board budget, agenda and having a discussion.
And try to do that without too much time going by.
Yeah, I think we should just jump on it and
Yeah.
go.
Yeah, as soon as it's ready.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
do it.
Is that, I mean, any further comments on that?
Paul, you good with that?
The only quick comment I had, because I was curious about this, I just looked at the planning board members and the term of George Seal and Peter Sargent is up this March. So I don't know if they're gonna be there or not. I mean, that's pretty important too. Politically, what's going on.
Yeah, I don't think we can change our strategy according to that, but.
Oh, I
there-
just, we should know about, I mean, I was trying to see when Craig Alexander is up on next year.
But there appears to be that a lot of these planning board members stay on forever.
Forever.
George,
Yeah.
Yeah, they've been there. Then they come, and then they go away, and then they come
They
back.
come back,
So, They stay there forever, then they go away, and then they come back.
deeper knowledge.
Right, and I mean, yeah, George is usually
Yeah.
helpful to.
Yeah.
Very, very helpful.
Right, if you're on the wrong track, he'll let you know.
Okay, so
Are we in agreement, Paul?
we're,
Lenny?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm fine with that, absolutely.
What is the vote we're considering? I mean, it'd be great to put in the minutes what we're voting on.
We're voting on focusing, I think, focusing on change 11 as our next big push. And working with the attorney that Chris knows or has worked with to review this with us and to make sure that this has legal standing. And that we want to, as a next step, once we've done that, the legal standing, then we want to meet with the planning board as a discussion, not asking them to vote on it. I think is that a good summary?
yeah, that sounds good.
Well said.
Okay, but we, on an advisory capacity, what are we gonna do? What is the idea when we go before the planning board? What are we going to ask the planning board to do?
This is the question. I guess it doesn't really matter. We can just say we want to get their feedback. And, if they were all 5 of them saying, yeah, this sounds great, then at that meeting on the fly, we could say, well, can you vote on it now? If they say, oh, wait, if more likely it's gonna come in with a bunch of back and forth, and then we can ask them, well, what would you need? Because especially if, maybe we're not asking Craig, but maybe we're Nick, but maybe we're asking George to say, what do you need from us? Well, we'd like to know which permits, well, what do you think? Which permits should it be? And, well, I can see we go forward, we just ask them for a planning meeting on it, informational meeting on this. And
Right.
say, this is where we are, and this is what we've got, and, and this, we've had an attorney look at it, it has, here's the language that the attorney wrote. I mean, this is a municipal attorney, I wish I had his name off the top of my head, but he's.
First name was Cam, wasn't it?
Cam, yeah, Cam Ferrante, is it, or, yeah, Cam, anyway, he's a partner at one of the big ones, in Portland, and, yeah, so we'd say, look, here's the, and if, maybe he'll give us an opinion letter on it, or not, or some sort of summary as to what he's doing on it.
I'm in
That
favor
sounds-
of it.
All right, so it sounds like everybody's
Yeah.
ready to
Yeah,
go.
well,
Absolutely. Yeah,
Okay.
let's go for it.
What do you
Okay,
think the turnaround time will be with Cam? Do you have any ideas?
I don't know.
Okay.
No. I'm out of town next week, but I'll try to get it out to him on the next day or two, and then go back and forth with him on it, so,
That'd be great.
and then once we get it, I'll send it around, and when everybody feels good about what we've got, then, let's get on the schedule for the planning board, and that may take a couple
Yeah,
weeks.
depending on how busy they are. That sounds great. And I personally read everything that I get sent to, but I would become more involved in replying and keeping things moving between
Right.
meetings.
Yeah, just.
Well, I can understand you spend time and write this long email asking for everyone's opinion and flip like radio silence.
Yeah, I mean, the way these things work, we can spend the rest of the year working on this, and I'd rather not, I mean, I'd rather us move along, so.
Especially this is our key piece.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
just,
And we've already got this stuff ready to go.
yeah, we kind of know the plan on that, so I think we put this forward, and then we're in a position to see where we are, start crafting the next tranche
Yeah.
of changes, so. Sounds good.
Where did the term recovery buffer come from? We just,
We invented
We
it.
invented it, yeah.
yeah, okay. Yeah,
Do you love it, Lenny?
no, I don't.
What would you
Another-
propose instead?
I don't know, just something like lake-friendly buffer or something that's more positive. I think that it'd be an easier
From
sell
a marketing standpoint,
from a marketing standpoint, it's a little more positive than the term recovery.
lake-friendly buffer.
But recovery isn't, somebody recovery from surgery? You don't think that, like Paul, for example?
I like recovery because it's
Okay,
admitting that there's a problem, that there's something that we need to heal from.
Yeah, we're
Well-
healing the lawn.
well, but here, but you have to, I guess my perspective that is that most people who have lawns down to the lake will not perceive that they're causing a problem. And if you just tell them that it's a lake-friendly buffer or something like that, they went to that particular terminology, but just something very friendly and positive. I mean, works, if you tell them it's a recovery buffer, it's telling them that they've done something bad. And that they have to.
Recover.
So I just see that as being more problematic.
I think we'd be open to,
Yeah.
to
Yeah, so,
give some thought on it.
well, I think
And-
everybody should give some thought on it. Maybe recovery buffer is the best term. I don't know. I'm hardly a good, I have no claim to being a marketer. But I just don't know the recovery buffer is quite the best
What does
terminology.
Lake Smart call them? Do they just say buffer?
I think it's just.
Well, it's a vegetative buffer.
Vegetative
What
buffer.
we've
They
been
just say
talking
vegetative
about,
buffer.
but.
Well, yeah, that's pretty bland.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I know.
Well, let's see if we can come up with something better.
Yeah, well.
I'll think about
I think it's also they have been naughty with their lawn.
Yeah, but I don't think
And
we
they,
need to tell them that. I think,
It's been hurting the lake and now we need some recovery.
yeah.
But I think I asked this before, is there really a need to call it even a recovery buffer, just a buffer? This is the buffer that has to be.
Vegetative buffer.
Yeah, right.
And then
And I
we
don't
got
think
with the same
Is there two
terminology. that-
categories of buffer? Do we have two categories? I think we only have one. A buffer.
Well, they talk about the in the shoreline zoning ordinance, they talk about a buffer. And they refer to a buffer, and you can all look at that and see where they talk about a buffer. So this differentiates it from something else, and it puts a name on it, and I spent a career in marketing. My career was in direct marketing, so
Who was?
direct marketing, me.
Oh, you were,
Yes,
okay.
yes, Cuttle Down.
Oh, I know what
So,
you did, yeah.
Yeah, I wrote copy for
Did you? I
a
watched
couple
that.
decades and, actually a decade until I got somebody else to write it. And then I reviewed and edited the copy, so,
Okay.
Recovery.
Well, you were certainly successful at it, so I've never
it
done
worked
marketing.
for me, but
Okay.
It's catchy. It's a catchy name.
I.
I taught operations, but not marketing is
Ooh, it's squishy,
a
yeah.
little squishy.
I
for
think we
me.
just gotta look legally at, I asked that before, the statutory buffer versus what we're calling it, and if it is different. And, maybe it's the Belgrade buffer.
Oh, right, there you go, the Belgrade
Belgrade
alliteration. Belgrade buffer.
Get
Well, then
t-shirts.
we need a logo,
Yes.
like a
Build
character.
your Belgrade buffer.
Like somebody dressed up in a
Build back
Billy
better,
suit,
yeah.
I'm the Belgrade buffer. I can see it at Halloween. The BLA, I'm not gonna volunteer to dress up as the Belgrade buffer. but,
Little twigs coming out of your head.
Oh, yeah.
Fabulous, yeah.
I've got half of the outfit at home, but, so we wanna give Charlie Bader some, time if he's still,
Charlie, you here?
you still there, Charlie?
His name is there.
Yeah.
I'm here. Oh, you
I'm
were
here.
there, okay.
Any
So,
other thoughts first, Charlie?
Any thoughts, Charlie?
Well, yeah.
well, and I think the thought that comes to mind is how this is a long-term process. And I think making a good start is really important. And incremental gains will be useful to move forward. So I think getting this right, I think is critical. I think the planning board is not necessarily opposed, but is not going to be embracing everything right off. And so I think, as we can make, and you all can make incremental gains on this, I think that's a good strategy. So I think, somebody like John Blaze would be happy to go to a planning board or select person meeting at the appropriate time. And, could share some information about what Auburn's done. And I think, Chris's comment that, it has to be a good fit for Belgrade. John does have staff that Hans would not have to sort of implement this. But, I think through a fee structure with, with your permit, that can, free up resources to make sure this stuff gets done and that it's, recorded and, ends up being a permanent improvement to the property. I think, this is definitely something worth going for and will help. It's not the perfect solution. It doesn't address everything Dave Roque, suggested. That can be added. You're going to get, comments just like Dave's. What about, there's no grass to grow back. If we just stop mowing the grass, it's going to take a lot longer, and that's true. So this, again, I think it's, you can try to be comprehensive, or you can try to be limited in the approach, and then, getting support and moving at least something forward, I think is positive. But, it does suggest a fair amount of work for the committee going forward, or some group of subcommittees, maybe one working on septic, one working on, roads and driveways, one working on this buffer, would be helpful. But I do think, and I'm hopeful that you are able to make this a success, because I think it will just begin to provide some momentum. So those are my thoughts.
Yeah, you had emailed Pat, I think it was, and Pat passed it on to us about your conversation with John, and it's a phosphorus ordinance, and you sent some things that were passed along as well, and the DEP manuals referenced in the ordinance, and then you're hoping that we can consider bringing roads and driveways back into discussion, now that we're not trying to cram everything into one, package. So I looked at some of this, and they've got, so the phosphorus ordinance, would that be like a separate ordinance, or part of the shoreline zoning ordinance?
I think it could be limited to the shoreland zoning. Ultimately, I think it does apply to non-shoreland properties, but I think shoreland is where you can get traction, where, and it makes a difference, along all the streams that come to the lake as well as the lake shore. So I think that if you can implement it there, how it's structured, ultimately, there's a lot of runoff into ditches that end up in streams as well, but that's not covered by the shoreland ordinance. And, I think that might be overreach for now. So I think if you focus on the shoreland and say within this area, we're going to implement, some phosphorus standards, and, here they are, and, they could be similar to Auburn's. I think you've got, a case that's already been looked at from a legal point of view. You can get your attorney just to agree with, that opinion, or, come up with a different, view on that. I think that's important. The science is there. One of the things that we look at runoff from different land uses, and, lawns and development have somewhere between 5 and 10 times the phosphorus runoff that forests do. And, that there's science behind this. So I think though that information's readily available and would be, I think, important to communicate. I think Jan is right that, education and communication is going to be part of, making this successful. And, but, so there's support for doing this. And and if anything, I think some people will say you're not doing enough. Other people will say, you shouldn't do anything. So I think, that's probably the right balance to shoot for initially to get something done.
Yeah, I guess that it's still, I'm confused, and maybe others on the committee are not confused about what we would do. I'm looking at the ordinance, the code of ordinance, phosphorus control. And then the purpose and everything there. And I'm just wondering, boy, do we adopt this as written? And it gets it's technical, and I guess I don't know, I'm confused as to what's our next step with this, and I guess you guys have any opinions on this, anybody?
I think we need to see what the planning board does with our change 11.
Yeah,
And then if it's positive, continue to work on the phosphorus as a follow-up. But if they don't open the door for us on change 11, we're gonna have a problem.
I guess,
Because it's part of the same, issue, which is erosion and dirt and phosphorus getting into the lake through that mechanism. And so I think, Paul might be right that this might, let's focus on a buffer and the reasons for the buffer, and the mechanism to implement that. And because it touches on a number of other issues, the phosphorus, it touches on, the permitting mechanism, because you could have a similar permitting mechanism for, dealing with roads and driveways. So I think the buffer is something, like you say, you've done a fair amount of work on. It's, with some legal review, it should be ready to, present and look for their support. And if you can't get that across the finish line, then all of these other issues are going to be problematic as well. But if you do get that across and just say, this is not a comprehensive plan to, address the issue of erosion and phosphorus, but it's a start, and we've got other things that we're working on. But this is the one that's ready to present. And then I'd be happy to work on the, sort of the roads, driveways, and the sort of the phosphorus side of that. I'm no expert on septic, so I leave that in, Dave Roke's hands. But so if that's helpful to the committee, I'm happy to, participate, with some additional work around that issue in particular. But I think the buffers, you've got enough science, you've done enough work to, and just as long as it's legally justifiable and implementable, then I think, it's time to bring to, try to get that done.
okay, so we'll work on that, and then, I guess I'm still confused by this phosphorus, ordinance. And, cause it looks like it's new construction, and a lot of this seems to be that it would be in Auburn's watershed, but not in the shoreland zone, and we're focused on the shoreland zone. So maybe this is something that the committee does not pertaining to our examination of the shoreline zoning ordinance, but pertaining to the lakes and the water quality. So maybe this is something we do kind of separate, you know what I mean? Because
Yeah, that's-
it's, yeah.
Because that does apply to all the waters in Auburn, the
Right.
two lakes, the two, so it's both the drinking water and the non-drinking water. So, it has, whether the select board, gives you that, broader, mandate is, you should talk with them about too. You're looking at things beyond the shoreline zone. Is that okay essentially? Or do you want us to stay within the shoreline zone initially, which any movement in that direction would be helpful to the lake and water quality. But if you can get the mandate to take on, implementing it, basically, throughout the town, all the better. But I just think that's a tougher hill to climb.
One thing that, Dimitri,
So,
one thing,
so, what's that, Paul?
one thing that might occurs to me is that what Charlie's talking about, and when I was on the BLA, we really didn't talk about this, the science of this phosphorus. I mean, I think that the primary mission of a lot of these lake associations is water quality. And maybe we need to work in tandem with the lake associations on this and bring them in and get them up to speed on the phosphorus issue and how the science of it.
Well, those 319 grants we get is all about the phosphorus and all about, dirt getting into the lake, and the money that we get through those 319 grants, which are the DEP grants that, Seven Lakes has, is used to basically fix roads and fix driveways and fix culverts and fix shorelines. So, there's a lot, all of those, those plans that are developed, the work plans for these have a lot of science in them, and, provide the rationale and justification for doing that work and funding that work. So I think a lot of that information's available, and that might be helpful to the planning board as well, if they're not familiar with it, is to make sure that they have access to those documents. So they could also, there's a lot of good trend information in some of those documents as well, which speaks to the need for the town to take care of those resources long-term for its tax base and just general, community life.
So, we can, I think the Lakes and Natural Resources Committee has a mandate to work on the lakes and natural resources. So I think we've got a mandate to look at, things that are outside the shoreline zone. And I see a lot of we initially talked about roads and driveways within the shoreline zone. And I think we decided we didn't really have any axe to grind on that. Is that, Lenny, you looked at that. Did you feel like there wasn't, we didn't feel like there was a clear cut change to the shoreline zoning ordinance that we needed to make.
Right, the ordinance itself was fairly strong.
Was fairly strong in that, what I read with that Auburn ordinance is stuff that I'd want George Seal to look at and say, well, is this already in our other ordinance? I mean, it's development in roads, existing roads. I mean, I think that you're absolutely right, roads and driveways are a big issue, but I think that the big issue is outside the shoreline zone.
No, it's definitely in the shoreline zone too. I mean, there's a lot of bad driveways eroding into the lake. And similarly to getting any other permit, if you're doing 200 feet of development on your property, square feet, you got to make sure your driveway's up to snuff. And I would, ideally, in addition to having a 30-foot buffer. So, and that would be my suggestion, but you can only bite off so much so fast. So, you know, but there's a lot of bad driveways. You know, part of North Pond's problem is a lot of camps that are right on the water with a lot of bad driveways and a lot of bad septic systems.
Right, right, yeah, so, okay, so we might, you know, if we have success with the buffer, then maybe we can come back and do a similar thing with roads and driveways.
We're ready.
None of us, we're gonna abandon ship, we're just waiting for you, Mary, to tell us, okay, all right, so
Okay.
we'll wind it up and we're out. Okay,
Thank you all.
Okay, so.
Let's have a motion to adjourn.
Yes.
Second.
Thank
All
you.
those in favor?
Thank
Whoa.
you, thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
When are we meeting next?
Second Tuesday.
Second Tuesday,
Tuesday in April.
April, okay, great, no, okay.
Good luck, Paul.
April 8th.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.
Oh.